Last night I went to go and see the Golden Globe winner for Best Picture and Best Director. I'm talking about 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. And this is a movie set in World War I, and it follows a couple of young British soldiers. One of them is Dean Charles Chapman, and the other one is George Mackay. And they are sent on an excruciatingly difficult mission to go and warn some fellow soldiers before they are attacked by Germans.
Deliver this to Colonel Mackenzie. It is a direct order to call off tomorrow morning's attack. If you don't, it will be a massacre.
And they have to cross enemy lines. They have to go through all kinds of harrowing sequences in trenches. And a lot of these sequences we've seen in other war films. You know, they're expertly conceived and put together here, but the big deal with this movie is that it was conceived as a single shot. It was meant to be the camera following these two soldiers as they embark on their mission, and we start with them and we just follow along as their adventures and their escapades kind of transpire in real time. And of course that adds a nerve-wracking element in there, because you never know when danger is going to visit them, when a bad guy is going to shoot at them, when something calamitous is going to befall these two young soldiers and take them out, because they are completely in harm's way in this movie, and you feel that. It's hard not to reconcile what an enormous accomplishment this movie is, and I think it's deserving of its accolades because people kind of recognize how tough it would be just from the movie-making aspect to put all of this together. That meant all of the extras and all of these acting sequences had to be expertly choreographed as the camera is passing through trenches and going into officer barracks and things like that, and coming out of that and going into tunnels. The camera's got to track along and follow with all that. As, you know, tons and tons of people are crossing frame and perfectly timed. There is this one sequence when one of the soldiers is running across the field as soldiers are streaming out into battle, and the actor kept running into people and stumbling and falling and having to pick himself up and keep rocking as the person on the Steadicam rig, I'm sure, was running backwards as quickly as possible. And still, it felt real, it felt natural, and it's hard not to be completely pulled into those action sequences. Where the movie kind of lets you down a bit, though, is that we don't have those moments of nuance and subtlety where we really get to understand who these characters are and really start to care about them as people. Now, I could deal with that because they're, you know, meant to be super young soldiers with not a lot of life experience, and there's not lots of backstory that we kind of have to know. We just know that they're terrified, that they're questioning why they're doing this, they're questioning why they've been asked to do this. You get into their shoes quite easily and get into their heads quite easily. And the two performers are fantastic, our two leads.
You keep hold of me!
There's lots of great cameos from famous British actors that you're going to recognize from lots of different places. That's kind of the big star-studded surprise that Sam Mendes has for you when you buy your ticket and go and see this film.
He is convinced he has them on the run.
I really enjoyed 1917, and I think it's a wonderful piece of filmmaking. It's hard not to kind of think of the last big war movie that I saw, which was Dunkirk. And I remember thinking about Dunkirk that it was a little bloodless, and it was more about being a thriller, and it was clockwork paced. And I appreciated all that, and I enjoyed all of that, but I felt like it maybe didn't hammer home and register as much as something maybe like Saving Private Ryan, because it felt a little bit anachronistic. It felt like it was out of time. But there was something about the way that Christopher Nolan was able to piece all of these things out of sequence and out of chronological order, and he ramped up the anxiety and the feel for each one of these moments that was about to befall. And there was a little bit more, I think in Dunkirk's case, a little bit more time to kind of massage and nudge and, you know, add nuance to every moment in that movie than what Sam Mendes was able to do because of the decision to shoot this all as one big continuous flowing shot. I think it's worth seeing the movie just because of that, but I also think the movie kind of labors under its own technical showiness.
Yes, sir.
I can't really admonish the filmmakers for this choice because there's been a million war movies, and it's interesting how they become such compelling cinema. We're so driven to go and see these stories, and yet war keeps happening again and again.
We should put him out of his misery. No.
This is a technical marvel of a movie, but I felt removed a bit as I was watching it unfold because I was just in awe of the achievement here. And I guess that's enough for it to win awards, and that's enough for it to win its accolades. It's a crowded genre, the war picture genre. There's a lot of them, and when you're sitting there watching this movie, it's hard not to think of tons of other good war pictures as well that honestly maybe had a little bit more of an emotional resonance. I guess that's the only thing that I could levy at 1917. I do think it's worth your time. I do think it's an unbelievably cool achievement. And everybody did their job very well, including the performers. 1917 is a very cool flick, and it's definitely worth your time. I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10.